This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your source for the latest Iowa ag news headlines right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, Mark Magnuson, and Andy Peterson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Mark.
Hello and welcome into Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Mark Magnuson. Today is Thursday, January 16th, 2025, and we're so glad you can join us for today's show. In today's episode, I will be joined by Sam Trainor of agmarket.net for our closing markets. But first, it is time for my conversation with Scott Rabe of Mosaic as we discuss biological nutrient enhancers and how that can help farmers with their fertilizer applications. Mark Magnuson for the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and I'm joined today by Scott Rabe. He is the Director of Research and Development for Mosaic Biosciences. Scott, first of all, thanks for joining us here today on the show. And I want to jump right into our topic here today. Thinking about where the farm economy is at right now, are any farmers having to cut corners when it comes to fertilizer rates and thinking about 2025 and what that means for them? And then how does Mosaic fit into that puzzle?
Hey, Mark. Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for the warm welcome. We don't want growers to be cutting corners. We want them to be getting the most out of their input spend that they possibly can. And that's where the Mosaic Biosciences is trying to contribute that, where if they maybe have to spend a little bit less on fertilizer, that they can still get that nutrient uptake and that yield enhancement that they are expecting from their fertilizer.
So, Scott, what is the product from Mosaic that is going to help farmers that are maybe in that difficult situation where they're saying, yes, we have to cut fertilizer rates just a little bit, but there's a way that Mosaic can help?
Yes, we have a product that is called BioPath that is a nutrient use enhancer. And in previous trials, and you can see the data from this on the Mosaic website up in their AgriFacts, where they've seen a 3.5 bushel per acre increase versus the same trials that don't use BioPath and just use regular fertilizer.
So, Scott, with the use of BioPath, then, does that just mean that the grower is going to have a healthier plant that is, at the end of the day, just going to be more efficient in the ability to use those nutrients?
Yeah, that's correct, Mark. I mean, that's what these nutrient use enhancers are all about. They're about getting the fertilizer that has been put out by the grower to make that more available to the plant, to help it get into the plant, and then even to move to within the tissues within the plant where it will be the most beneficial.
So, Scott, how does the economics of that work then for a grower that's in a tough financial situation already? They're thinking about ways that they can maybe save money. Let's say they're planning to use a little bit less fertilizer then. So then how does adding a product from Mosaic in the form of BioPath, how does that make economic sense for the grower?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's about yield preservation, right? If your yield is the ultimate measure of how successful your growing season was, you do have to measure the cost of your inputs. But if you decrease the one and you add in the enhancer, the BioPath, you still maintain that yield.
And that goes back to what we started the conversation with, doesn't it, Scott? The fact that, yes, we don't want to cut corners because it might make economic sense in your head going into the season that you want to cut back on inputs a little bit. But at the end of the day, you want those yields to be as high as possible to obviously help your bottom line. And if you don't have those yields where they need to be, the economics of it aren't going to make sense to begin with.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, it really is about, making the best of what you are using, having that fertilizer be used to its fullest impact, to have the effect be what you desire with the, not to over apply, but also not to under apply to get the biggest bang for your buck, if you will.
Do the biological nutrient enhancers from Mosaic also help with early season plant health than just the overall health of the plant?
Yeah, that's correct, Mark. I mean, that's the idea, is that you want to get that plant off to a healthy early start. You can think of it as, feeding an infant a healthy meal when they're young so that they grow up to be big and strong. This is about getting the nutrients, the meal for the plant, if you will, into that plant to get them off healthy, strong, be able to deal with the stresses, the abiotic stresses that the environment will throw at them.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Scott, but there's actually a bacteria that is part of the nutrient enhancer, isn't it, that helps to make this process work? It's actually I mean, it's in the name, biologicals. We know that it's a living thing, but there's a bacteria that's actually a component of this, isn't there?
Yeah, that's correct. There is a specific species of bacteria that is in there. This is sort of the stuff that's actually really exciting about the biologicals. This is the part that I'm much more familiar with, is that, Mother Nature has already solved a lot of problems. The microbes, the bacteria that are in the soil, there's hundreds of millions of them. They are not there by accident. Life exists for basically two purposes: to eat and to make more of themselves. And so the science has advanced so far that we can now go in and look deeply inside these individual bacteria, sequence them, understand, their inner workings to a level that was never possible even 10, 15 years ago, and find the bacteria that have the innate abilities to solubilize or mobilize nutrients, put those in with the fertilizer so that you're getting the right bacteria that already has, like I said, Mother Nature has solved the problem, putting the right tool in the right place to make this the fertilizer be more efficient.
Is Mosaic making advances every day in this field when it comes to biologicals? Because it is, yes, it's maybe more of a newer area of farming to a lot of farmers, but obviously it's been in the product development stage for a long time, and you guys have been working on these things for a long time. But are there advancements made every single day in this field?
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. I mean, that's the exciting thing about this field, is there are advancements that are made every single day, whether that is a product that we already have on the market and making improvements to it, be that through a new formulation or combining with other bacteria, identifying new bacteria with new capabilities, and then running it through the test to make sure that we can turn that into a product that is consistently providing the efficacy that we need it to, that the growers need it to. The science continues to evolve. Our ability to predict what these microbes can do, in silico, without having to do a lot of expensive tests, so that we pick the best ones before we go out and do field trials to demonstrate it that can actually work in the real world in a grower's field. You better pay attention to what's going on in the field, or you're going to miss the new stuff.
And then, Scott, just going back to something that you mentioned earlier, when we talked about, for example, a product like BioPath, that efficacy, the ability to see that through the data and research that Mosaic has done, how can farmers and growers find out more about that?
Yeah, if you go to mosaic.com, we have the AgriFacts, where Mosaic has a long history of sharing the performance data on their fertilizers, and we're putting the same thing out for our biological or bioscience projects as well. Growers are very smart, educated people, and they want to see the data. They want to see proof that it works. I think if you go back 20, 25 years ago, biologicals sometimes were labeled as snake oil. I think that era is long gone. This is science-backed products that work. We wouldn't put them out if they didn't.
And then, Scott, just to wrap up here today, is there anything else you'd like to let our Iowa viewers, our Iowa growers know about when it comes to the work that Mosaic is doing, and just as our farmers are getting ready for 2025?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. I mean, I think what I'd like to let them know is, we've got some products out there in the market now, BioPath and Power Coat. There's going to be more coming. We have a very active, full pipeline. We have the great problem of, we have more ideas than we can actually push out as fast as we would like them to be. So we continue to grow our team. We're building a team with really capable scientists that are focused on the products. We're not around interesting science. You need good science to get the products out, but we are about getting the products out in the marketplace. Keep an eye on the Mosaic product portfolio, because you're going to see a lot of exciting new technologies coming to the market in the next coming years.
He is Scott Rabe of Mosaic Biosciences, my guest here today. Scott, thanks so much for the time. Appreciate it, and have a great rest of your week.
Yeah, thanks, Mark.
Thank you to Scott Rabe of Mosaic for joining today's show, telling us all about the biological nutrient enhancers from Mosaic. Coming up, it will be the closing markets, but first, a word from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soybean Checkoff. You're watching Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
You're watching Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and we are joined now by Sam Trainor of agmarket.net. Sam, we had a little bit of a turn to the downside today. Is that how we closed in the grains?
Yes, it is. We were down 19 to 20 cents in the soybeans, down about 4 cents in the corn. Just another bit of a sell-off after a pretty good run up there at the end of last week, early early this week. Overnight, we had some tariff talks out of Canada. They're looking to retaliate against the new administration's tariff policies that have been talked about. So that was a negative headline that had the soybean prices a little bit lower. And then, too, we also saw some friendly weather forecast out of Argentina, which we haven't seen in quite some time. So looks like they could be getting a little over an inch of rain here over the next few days into the weekend. And that's definitely going to provide some relief to the dryness they have been seeing recently.
So, Sam, as we've talked about now that we've moved past from last Friday's reports, and of course, we saw the market movement from that earlier this week. Now we talk about the updated forecast for South America. Any other factors then we should be watching right now, whether it's in this country or around the world, in terms of what could move the market again?
Yeah, I think the easy answer there is going to be what happens on Monday night when these markets open after Trump's first day in office. I think there's a lot of uncertainty around that. Like I mentioned previously with the tariffs, there's been a lot of talk around that, but we still don't know what exactly his first day in office is going to entail. Is he going to put those executive orders in on day one, or is that going to be down the line a little bit? And two, what is he going to do with the 45Z tax guidance regulations there? That'll have a big impact on the markets as well. So I think Monday night into Tuesday morning is going to be very pivotal in these markets, as anytime you have a 3-day weekend and then open up on a Monday night, especially when there's some big news happening in between the 3 days there you typically get quite a bit of volatility there. So I won't be surprised to see some fireworks on Monday night when the market reopens after Martin Luther King Day.
And then to your point about the 45Z tax credits, we've gotten some more guidance here yesterday. There was a release last week as well for some of that information, but that is from the USDA side of things here with this current administration. So now it ultimately will move on to essentially what the Treasury Department does under President Trump and the new leadership in Washington, D.C. That is still yet to be decided.
You hit the nail on the head. Yeah, that's the big question mark. What are going to be the differences between the Trump administration and the Biden administration when it comes to the 45Z? You know, we're lacking a lot of details here as of late as to what we're going to be looking at, and is that going to change once we get into this new administration? Are we going to have more details, less details? It's all a big question mark, and it's something that needs answered here, because it's going to have a big impact on what these prices could do.
Let's talk about that other side of the ag marketplace now. Was the livestock also in the red today?
It was an ugly day in the cattle markets. You know, they've been near all-time highs for a little over a week now, and had a pretty ugly sell-off early in the day. Feeders were down as much as $4 or more. Fats down sharply as well. They did recover though and came back towards the end of the session and closed up off their lows, but still sharply lower on the day.
Sam Trainor of agmarket.net, my guest here today. Sam, what's the best way for our viewers to get in touch for more marketing information?
Easiest way would be to visit our website at agmarket.net, or you could give us a phone call, there at 1-800-779-1515.
Sam, thanks so much for the time. Always appreciate it, and have a great rest of your week.
Thanks, Mark. You too.
Thank you to Sam Trainor of agmarket.net for our closing markets here today. Let's take a look at how the closing numbers looked at the end of the day as we go to the markets tab of our website at iowaagnet.com, where you can find the market numbers anytime.
March corn closes down 4 1/4 at 474.5. March soybeans down 23 3/4 at 10.19 even. March soybean meal down 7.60 at 294.40. March soybean oil down $1.24 at 45.03. Chicago wheat down 9 1/2 at 537.5. Minneapolis wheat down 5 3/4 at 581 3/4. Kansas City hard red wheat down 9 1/4 at 548 1/4. March oats unchanged at 349 3/4. On the Merc, February live cattle down $1.92 at 196.60. March feeder cattle down $2.07 at 267.72. February lean hogs down 82 cents at 82.30. February pork cutout unchanged at 91.32. Class 3 milk is up 13 cents at 20.05.
That wraps up our closing markets for Thursday and brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. You can also follow us on social media at Facebook, X, TikTok, and LinkedIn. And you can listen to our morning, midday, and closing market podcast, as well as our daily Iowa Ag Matters podcast, wherever you find your favorite podcast, at Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and Podbean. From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, I'm Mark Magnuson. For Riley Smith, Dustin Huffman, and Andy Peterson, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.